This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's do this. Another afternoon edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to have you with us. Andrew Paterson along with Michael Remis back at the CTO's desk. And we got a lot to talk about coming out of last night's game. What an absolutely bananas contest between the Winnipeg Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. A dozen goals, blown 4-goal lead, a 4-goal win, and a lot coming out of the game, especially with what happened at the end involving Montreal's public enemy number one, Mark Scheifele. So we're going to talk about it with Jamie Thomas. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press is going to join us. And then coming up later on in the program, talk a little bit about the Manitoba Moose. And I'm very much looking forward to bringing in Jeff Malott, who set the internet on fire with his walk-off shootout winner against the Chicago Wolves on Sunday afternoon. Going to be a great show. We will focus mostly on the Winnipeg Jets, who are off today. Be back at practice tomorrow. And then coming off 2 straight wins, a massive tilt, their final opportunity to make up some ground head-to-head against the Dallas Stars. That game is Friday night at Canada Life Centre. A big shout out and thank you to the sponsors that make this program happen each and every day. We couldn't do without you and incredibly appreciate the support. Nick and Nikki DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, our betting partner over at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Not Auto Corp, Manitoba Battery, Culligan Water, Vita Health, and our friends downtown at F Apparel. A memorable game, both pre-game, during the game, and some interesting stuff post-game to get to. Let's get it going and get Michael Remis in here. Remo, what's going on, man?
Let's go, everyone. Hit the thumbs up. Let's go. We're fired to be here.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Hit that red subscribe button. Come on. We're pumped to be here. Happy Wednesday, right? Oh man, what a night it was last night. That was wild.
One of your greatest entrances in WST history.
I don't think there's any other way I could have entered after a night like that. I mean, I think didn't the over/under hit in the first period, or was it the second?
Yeah, you know why that is. You know who had the under on that game from the lock shop yesterday?
You did?
This guy. I was just laughing. But the Stone Cold Lock of the Century of the Week, the Blue Jackets, and Laine's 20th goal happened. I see Mitch is already doing a touchdown dance in the chat. Shout out to Mitch. I know the Jets Pope. Many listeners, both of the Lock Shop and Winnipeg Sports Talk, jumped on that line of the year. Patrick Laine over 19 and a half goals. We said in the summer, dude scores 20 goals in his sleep. So anyways, we've got some change. Probably was a tough day at Coolbet HQ, thanks to our Winnipeg Sports Talk and Lock Shop listeners. Yeah. But that was a nice little side story. It was all about what happened last night, Remo. And yes, I did take the under. That one was over quickly. But I still can't get over what an absolutely bizarre hockey game that was. And no better example of it than what happened in the first period with the Jets jumping out to a 4-0 lead on 6 shots early in the game, then not registering another shot for the rest of the period and finding themselves tied 4-3 and then, down up 4-3. And then early in the second tied 4-4. Listen, they got it done after that. And Connor Hellebuck really steadied his game after a very, very tough first half of the game for Helly. But the bottom line is, we said it all day yesterday. There's a lot of stories around this game. You know, we can talk about Scheifele. We can talk about what happened in the playoffs last year. first and foremost, this was about getting 2 points, and it wasn't pretty at times. It was a hell of a lot of fun to be in the building for, though. The fans left happy, and the Winnipeg Jets keep their playoff hopes alive for the time being, heading into this huge game against Dallas on Friday.
Yeah, well, I mean, what a start it was. The Husley male choir singing the Ukrainian anthem and Canadian anthem completely moving. And then you have, 5 minutes into the game, Evgeny Svechnikov puts the Jets on the board. That line has been clicking with Connor and Dubois, and the goals kept coming. Someone mentioned jobber goalies in the chat that we talked about previously. I'm not going to call Montebo a jobber, but some of the goals, maybe he would like to have back. Nate Schmidt sneaked one through his pads from the point, and he's quietly putting up a quality season in terms of points. Adam Lowry, he's been on a tear. He's got 7 goals in the year now, 4 of them in the last week and a half. So we talked about secondary scoring, and Mark Scheifele, enemy number 1, as you said. Scoring his first in the first period, 4-0. Like, okay, great, this is going to be a rout. And then, there were a lot of penalties. Seemed like every little slash on the hands was getting called. And it was the Josh Anderson show. He scored 2 for Terry Lehkonen, and he tied it up. It was with all the penalties and the goals. It was and the anthem. It was a wild night, entertaining stuff. And yeah, in the background you had the Scheifele versus Montreal, which came to a head in the third before the end of the game. But one of the more entertaining nights, almost, it wasn't full, but it seemed more full than recent games.
No doubt about that. Hey, a quick shout out to Lynn Reimer in the chat. Lynn says, being off on work on medical leave has its upside. I get to watch the show. Looking forward to all the guests in chat. Lynn, hope you're doing well. And great to have you with us. And of course, thanks to everyone that's joining us here on YouTube. If you haven't already, we joked about it at the start, but definitely hit that red subscribe button. And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up. And a big shout out to our friends listening on the podcast too. I should mention this. I always forget at the beginning of the program. If you do have the opportunity to go onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and a little review, it greatly helps us grow the channel. Thank you in advance for your support. Kate, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this game, but for the last couple days, we've been talking about it, what this moment was going to be like at the beginning of the game, when the Husley men's chorus did the Canadian anthem and the Ukrainian anthem, and my God, they did not disappoint. Aside from everything going on in the world, in 11 years of Winnipeg Jets hockey, there's the Husley anthem, and then there's everybody else. It is truly one of the great anthems in all of sports, if you ask me. But holy smokes, was that powerful last night in the building. You could, you couldn't hear a pin drop because the music was so incredible and the singing. But that was something that we've seen broadcast around the world, all the sports channels. It was everywhere on social media last night, as we expected yesterday. I think people will remember a lot of the fireworks at the game and what a bizarre game it was. But first and foremost, I think people remember the incredible show of support for the Ukrainian community here in Winnipeg, as well as the country of Ukraine and what they're going through by the fans in the building and the incredible rendition of the anthems last night.
Oh, 100%. I don't know how you wouldn't be moved by that. And always an incredible performance. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. Murat Atesh wrote about the Husley effect at The Athletic, saying the Jets are 7-0 in games where the Husley Ukrainian
in the regular season.
In the regular season. That's right. Absolutely incredible record. You saw the emotion, fans with signs, Jet logo in yellow and the Ukrainian blue, fans with hockey jerseys. It was pretty incredible to see, and the reaction as well on social media too. So it was an incredible moment to start the game that really I think ramped up the emotion in the building early on.
Yeah, so I'm sure you have seen it already. If you haven't, I actually had a nice perch for it and tweeted out a video of about 40 seconds. I couldn't believe how great the sound was, to be honest, on that video. So check it out on my Twitter at Hustlerama. Maybe we'll pop it up on the Winnipeg Sports Talk socials as well. And again, it's pretty much out there. If you go onto the internet, Husley, and you should give them a follow as well, by the way, at HOOSLI, Husley. think sometimes I've been pronouncing it Housley. But yes, Housley. And, I'll give a special shout out to Mike LeBay, a pal of mine that used to work with Bound at True North back in the day, is a member of the chorus. And I sent him a DM last night just saying, what a great job that he and the guys had done. And he said, thanks, probably my most memorable anthem ever. And can't imagine that will be changing anytime soon. So, it was unfortunate circumstances as why that was taking place. But man, they'd certainly kicked off great. And right off the bat, Remis, I mean, it didn't take long for the Winnipeg Jets to get into it. I mean, somewhat ironically, I guess, the lone Russian player on the Winnipeg Jets, Evgeny Svechnikov, scored right off the bat. But I mean, it was just an absolute onslaught early. I mean, the Montreal goaltender could not make a save. It was 4-0. And then I still don't really understand what happened in that first period. It was almost as if they thought, okay, well, the game's over or Montreal's going to just fall away. They certainly didn't. And the Jets did nothing for the remainder of that first period. And all of a sudden it's 4-3. And I don't know, I think maybe I'm at a point where I've sort of put myself at peace with the season, knowing how hard of a task it's going to be to make the playoffs. So there was somewhat of a morbid humor to what had happened, especially, and then, with the game being tied up. But I'll tell you what, Connor Hellebuck made the play of the game, stopping Rem Pitlick on that penalty shot. And it seemed like that really lifted up the spirits of the club. And man, Andrew Kopp made a difference in his return to the lineup, scoring shortly thereafterwards. The Jets regained their lead. And from then on, I mean, they really took it to Montreal.
Yeah, I think Andrew Kopp coming back to the lineup, huge impact. I think it really gave them 3 pretty solid lines. At least, they're going with the pairs, Scheifele, Wheeler, the Connor, Dubois, and then Kopp, Lauer. And you saw them on the penalty kill as well. And Andrew Kopp, he's on the power play, sees the goalie's out of position, fires one the far side. And after that, the Jets really took off in terms of goal scoring. I don't know what happened. I was having major flashbacks to Friday night when they blew the 4-0 lead. I mean, 4-0 lead against Montreal, you should be able to squash that one pretty good. I know people were thinking about the Red Wings-Leafs game on Saturday, which was really high scoring, but I mean, full credit for the Jets, to the Jets staying with it. I mean, they were getting outshot at that point too, and you were kind of getting worried, but special teams was definitely the story. The Jets, 4 out of 6 on the power play. I mean, they were passing it. It looked good. Even at the end, they threw it the second power play, because the game was out of hand. Stasny puts one in. The Canadiens on their power play, 1 for 6. So the Jets penalty kill looking good, power play. And I will say Mark Scheifele's shot on his first goal. Man, he's had some really nice one-timers this year. Hard, impactful in the back of the net. I think of the OT winner he had. He had a couple on the road trip recently, including the tying one in Dallas. This one, it's looked, he had a bit of a rough patch where they were kind of going off his stick sideways. But he seems to be, since the All-Star break, he's been feeling it. So, he was a 3rd star. Dubois, who's, had a bit of a rough stretch where he wasn't scoring. He's on fire again all of a sudden. And on the night where Line A scores his 20th, there was Dubois, 1st star, with 1 goal, 2 assists, and had some really strong play up and down the ice. So
Dubois has been so good lately. And I know. Listen, I know Rennie took a couple pokes, not pokes, but, pointing out the fact that simply at this point of the season, they needed more than 1 point in 6 games for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I think most people would argue that Pierre-Luc Dubois has been the least of the Winnipeg Jets' problems through most of this season, has been one of their best and most consistent players. But results matter. And, the way he played in the first period of that Colorado game, it seemed like he was really trying to put the team on his back. And, he's been phenomenal for the last few, and a huge part of, what success the Winnipeg Jets have had. But it has been nice to see over the last couple of games, getting some performance and production from both of those top couple lines. And you brought up Adam Lowry before, Remo, and I think, it's important to note again. Adam Lowry had a ton of chances, but when the Jets were playing Calgary a couple of weeks back, we were talking about the fact that Trevor Lewis had more goals and more points than Adam Lowry had up until that point in the season. And it didn't make a lot of sense because of how many minutes Lowry plays in important situations. but it just hadn't been going in. And it really seems like since then, the puck is now going for Adam Lowry. And what a move that he made on the goal to put the Jets up 3-0 earlier on. The interesting thing about Lowry is he's been doing it at times at 5-on-5, but he has really become a dangerous player, shorthanded at times as well. And listen, I think everyone will agree that this is a guy that leaves it out on the ice each and every night. I'm sure it's been a challenging season for him and probably a strange scenario with his dad now being the head coach. But he certainly is a leader on this hockey club and has been deserving of the success that he's had lately. And we've talked a lot about getting some scoring from the bottom six. Adam Lowry is stepping up and leading the way in that department right now. Yeah,
Lowry's, season numbers, he's got 14 points in 54 games, but in his last 13 games, he's got 6 points here. And as I said, 4 goals. That's more than half of his season total in the last week and a half here. So he is on a bit of a heater, Adam Lowry, after, we had said the Jets need secondary scoring to step up. You can't have, seemingly the first line and the second line would never be scoring at the same time. Someone else has got to chip in. And there was Adam Lowry with Andrew Kopech on his line yesterday. Huge to have that. So, I know they beat Arizona, who's like at the bottom, and Montreal is at the bottom. But hey, they don't control the schedule. Wins are wins. You get the clean 2 in each one, and you move forward to Friday night against Dallas. And that is the real, some of us are watching the standings, but Hustler, you're just watching the Jets, and you know how many they need to win.
Well, yeah, we kind of said, looking at the final 30, they needed to basically be 13 games above 500, above NHL 500 during those games. Now, they've got 2 of them down, so you're basically looking at going 18-7-3 sort of thing. By my calculations, you can't lose 15 points is the maximum that you can lose. So listen, you get 2 points, you don't have to worry about it, but if you lose in regulation, there's 2 off that 15. If you lose in OT, there's 1 off that 15. The bottom line is there's a lot of wins necessary. But hey, the week started off great. They bounced back in the third period against Arizona and squeezed 2 out to finish up the road trip and salvage something. And now gave the fans a very exciting game to watch yesterday, and got the 2 points. But the rest of this homestand, hugely important. Dallas on Friday night. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that game over the next couple days. The New York Rangers, who have had a phenomenal season so far and have arguably the guy playing the best in net in the entire season in Shesterkin on Sunday. And then the defending 2-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champs coming to town in the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, they're moving up a couple weight classes over the course of the next few days, next few home games. But the bottom line is, these conversations would have been moot if they weren't able to get those 2 points. Now, we'll speak more about this, and I'll get Jamie Thomas's take. And before we play this clip, would you want to do let's do the Scheifele clip first, the 2-minuter on pumping up the crowd. Then we'll hear the one from the Habs side of things. But in the meantime, I would love to hear people's thoughts before we opine on it, as what you thought about the fight, if you want to call it that, part of the Gordie Howe hat trick for Mark Scheifele. But his reaction after the game, how did you take it? And what did you think about it? You can put that in the chat, but right now let's hear from Mark Scheifele. He talked about, the big game and pumping up the crowd after his first and probably only ever Gordie Howe hat trick, if you want to call it that.
Gordie Howe hat trick, what does that mean to you?
First and last.
Yeah, first and last. I definitely wasn't looking to go fight out there. It was just one of those things that kind of spur of the moment. He kind of put me in a chokehold and just went from there. So it'll probably be my first and my last. But it's one of those things. They're they fought to the end. They're a team that, they made plays. They kept on, getting good chances towards the end of the game and, making us, on our heels. So it was one of those things.
You weren't looking for the fight, but you seemed to have some emotion afterwards, trying to get the crowd pumped up. Give me an idea of the emotions that you were going through after that.
I was just excited with a big win. that might be the only time I'd ever be able to try to pump up the crowd after a fight. So, usually, the last time I think it happened, we lost the game, in Carolina. So there wasn't much pumping up to be done there. So, I looked at it, it was just one of those, it was great to be in front of, a full building. Great to have our fans in the building. Just a lot of optimism and, kind of like what I said before, probably my first and last time to be able to actually ever do that after a fight.
Mark, were you looking over your shoulder for that all night?
You never know. I talked about this morning. You never know what's going to happen, and I said if the opportunity presented, if someone rang the doorbell and I do it, I wasn't expecting it to. I wasn't really expecting it to happen, but you always have to think. There's going to be, there's always going to be something that could happen. It's a physical game, and there's a chance that happens, especially the magnitude of what happened last year. But I think it's all over now.
All right, there's Mark Scheifele. It's all over now. I am not so sure, to be honest. And I think it would have been over if he had, simply skated back and, because let's face it, that wasn't much of a fight. I mean, there's 3 minutes or whatever left in the game. Like, if that happens in the second period, do they get 5 minutes? I mean, I don't know. I think they might have got 2 minutes for roughing. But it is clear. And listen, I will say this. I mean, we watch this team every day. We remember the Logan Stanley act after the Toronto game in the final 30 seconds, getting the crowd pumped up. And I think many people sort of took that as a little almost self-depreciating humor about, the fight that had just taken place. And obviously it was a great atmosphere at this time. You're running away with the game and it's just about done. And I think a lot of people around here will give Mark Scheifele the benefit of the doubt. I can pretty much assure you that sentiment is not held by folks on the other side, certainly amongst the Habs fan base, and for Mark Scheifele, more importantly, for members of the Montreal Canadiens. Josh Anderson was asked about it after the game, and this is what the big Habs winger had to say.
The game kind of got carried away, but there's still a lot of time left in the first period, and then we battled back. So it's that situation in the game where you don't want to do anything to put your team in jeopardy. But I thought Twides did a good job of stepping up, but obviously we didn't like the reaction of what he did towards the end of the game, and it's a good thing that we play him more times this year.
There you have it. There's Josh Anderson. Now, I was somewhat surprised that maybe if it was going to happen, I was surprised that it, took place when it did. And by Chris Weideman, I mean, dude is 5'9" and wasn't even on the Habs last year. So to discuss amongst yourselves, Habs fans, how you felt that the team handled that, if they were going to quote unquote handle it. But Remo, I don't know about you. I mean, there's one thing, the act, and again, Mark Scheifele is going to get the benefit of the doubt here in Winnipeg. He'll probably get the benefit of the doubt from most of the people here in our chat room. He's not getting the benefit of the doubt of the Montreal Canadiens. And I have to admit, for something that probably was done, and Mark Scheifele certainly felt that it was over now, I have to admit, I think it's less over now than it was going into last night's game because of what happened at the end. And we basically heard Josh Anderson say as much there.
So you're saying because Mark Scheifele, after that, fight, and I've seen both of Mark Scheifele's NHL fights, they're pretty much, I think they lasted for less than combined 10 seconds, where, they get together and then fall down. But, when Mark Scheifele, so he goes like this and says, "Let's go." I heard maybe he gave a little wink to the Habs bench. I mean, they're winning 8-4. The crowd's going nuts. It was a crazy game. Scheifele can't get excited about a fight. He can't get excited about winning. This reminds me of in baseball where they get mad at you for watching a home run for too long or walking around the bases too slowly. I mean, come on. This is entertainment. Let's have some fun here. I don't think anyone's taking that seriously. Come on.
Did you just hear what Josh Anderson said?
Yeah, he's sour. They lost. They got pumped 8-4. They're having a miserable season. Come on.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm just saying right now, mark my words. I think that now it is far more likely that Scheifele has to deal with this come the game in early April where the Winnipeg Jets go to Montreal. And that's going to be a very different atmosphere than it was last night in Winnipeg. I mean, sure, you had a bunch of Habs fans there, as you always do, but I mean, that is a home crowd. The Habs are not going to be having anything to play for. And I do wonder about a guy like Marty St. Louis, about, how he feels about it. He wasn't around there before, but he was there last night, and they got embarrassed in a number of ways. And I think there's still a lot of bad blood around Mark Scheifele. So I'll just say this. I mean, yeah, it was somewhat comical. There was a lot of humor in both in the fight itself and the reaction afterwards. And if you're a Jets fan, you were loving every minute of it. But I'm just saying, if Mark Scheifele really wanted to just put that thing to bed, I think maybe it's a little bit more discretion in that situation might have been advantageous, because as I say, I really don't think that did anything but maybe poke a team, that still wasn't completely over it, but hadn't really done much about it last night. And again, still very strange, the guy that did step up. But some of those other players like Josh Anderson, I think, are looking at themselves after what happened last night and the way they took his actions. And I really do think that we'll be speaking more about this situation going into that final game between the two clubs.
I do agree that having the Montreal fans there will make it a bigger deal. I mean, this was in Winnipeg. Montreal fans haven't had a chance to boo him, but I don't know. I mean, Montreal won 4-0. They dominated the series. That was the turning point. He took himself out of the series. It was so maybe they should actually be cheering Mark Scheifele and thanking him. Otherwise, maybe they wouldn't be in the Stanley Cup final. But I do want to point out one thing. So yesterday morning, I mean, they have to ask Scheifele about it, and they're asking him questions. And Rennie's like Sean Reynolds, Sportsnet's like, if Jake Evans tried to fight you or wants redemption, would you offer him the opportunity? And Scheifele's just like, yeah, I mean, if he wants to go, like, I'll go. Like, what's he going to say? Like,
totally. Yeah.
That
was all that he could say.
What's he supposed to do? Like, coward out and be like, no, this is what's done's done or whatever. He's just going to say, sure. Like, he's answering the question. Well, I got a kick out of, the big two networks on social media, taking this quote and making it like Scheifele came out and like cut a promo on Jake Evans and was like, so like, here's one of the like this is the thing on social media. You got to take a quote and put a graphic. If Jake Evans wants to fight me, I'll answer the bell. Now, when you say it like that, it sounds like he was actually looking for a fight, but it was like a pretty casual response. Just like, sure, I guess I got to do it. And here's the other one. This one much more impactful with the picture of the hit.
Oh.
And
Kevin Friends really stirring it up.
Yeah, really stirring it up, Tim. Yeah, this one's from Tim and Friends. If Jake Evans wants to fight me, I'll answer the bell. And it wasn't like that, but I mean, I kind of enjoyed the social media game, I guess, from the big networks trying to amp this up. And you heard from the players, it was nothing, but I just found it interesting. I kind of wanted to point it out because the tone of the quote does not match this photo in black and white with the quote. It's way more impactful if you do it in black and white, Huss. If you do it in color,
I'm surprised they didn't have. I'm surprised they didn't have a in the corner a picture of him on the stretcher afterwards as well, just to remind everybody how that had happened. So, as I said, we'll see what Hammer has to say about it, and certainly Jamie Thomas, but spend a lot more time talking about the big performance of the game. I know a lot of people talking about Connor Hellebuck in the chat as well. So we will get to all of that coming up in just a few minutes. Hey, a big shout out to our friends over at F Apparel. They are getting ready for the summer, and you should be too. Probably spent a lot of time at home over the last couple of years. Your big events, your big gatherings haven't been happening. Well, they are in 2022, and thank God for that. Weddings, graduations, and so much more. Every guy needs at least one suit that fits and looks great, and F's custom-made suits start at just $399. If you have a high school graduate this year, definitely talk to Andrew, the guys down at F. If you show your valid student ID for this year as a graduate, they'll get you a free shirt and tie with any suit. So, a young 18-year-old guy going into, the next phase of his life can get a suit, shirt, and tie starting at $400. It's a great deal. And of course, 15% off for wedding parties as well when you get your suits as a group from F Apparel. See them at 190 Smith Street and check them online at F, that's EPHapparel.com. Our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market have lots going on at any of their 7 locations as Winnipeg's leader in organic, natural supplements, beauty products, groceries, with the best selection and the best prices in a town. Not to mention some amazing lunch options, delicious and healthy, like Vitamarket salads, soups, sandwiches, and more. And if you can't make it into the store, you can visit their brand new, fully shoppable website at myvita.ca to buy online or schedule a delivery with Instacart. And of course, you can also join the exclusive Vita VIP list by texting Vita VIP to 1-877-630-1970 to receive special offers all year long and be entered to win a $100 Vita Health gift card. Now with 7 locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, pop by Vita Health Fresh Market or visit them online at myvita.ca. And, geez, I could probably use a little Culligan right now. Culligan Water, the experts in all things water in Winnipeg for 65 years and running, family owned here in Winnipeg over on Sargent Avenue. And they have got it all for you, your family, or your business, starting with water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, drinking water systems, and citywide water delivery services when you need it. And obviously, you can schedule in advance. If you do have needs for your business, custom, commercial and industrial water products and solutions available from the experts at Culligan Water as well. Pop down and see Keenan and the gang at 1200 Sargent Avenue, or hit them up at 204-694-5180. And you can find out more on all of the wonderful Culligan products and services over online at drinkculligan.com. Remo, we were, you know what? It looks like we're going to just go a little longer with the two of us because I think Jamie Thomas double booked himself, including something more important than a Winnipeg Sports Talk visit, which I believe was a doctor's visit for one of his children. But my God, we've got a lot to get to from the game last night. We can continue getting some great feedback from everybody here in the chat. And Jeff Hamilton is going to join us coming up in a few minutes on the program. Hey, before we get back into the Jets, I do, exactly. Let's talk about Matthew Perreault. Lost in the insanity of the dozen goals and the very emotional tribute and the anthems at the beginning of the game was the return of one of the most popular Winnipeg Jet players in the better part of the last 7 years in Matthew Perreault. And Perreault usually had a smile on his face, and he certainly did. And you could tell how much that warm welcome and tribute to Matthew Perreault last night by Winnipeg Jet fans and, of course, the Jets management and game operations. It was a great piece. And another great moment last night of a guy that, bled for the Winnipeg Jets for 7 years and still has a ton of fans here in Winnipeg and southern Manitoba.
Yeah, I know, we often like to talk about tribute videos and if they're deserving of one or not, but Matthew Perreault very clearly deserving of a tribute video, as you said, 7 years here in Winnipeg. We talked yesterday. He's played on just about every line. His daughters were born here, so I think he's has a connection with the community, and you saw that. It was great. This is the first time the fans can give a standing O, and remind me when Brian Little was shown on the screen on Saturday. You stood up and you just cheered, and last night too with Matthew Perreault. I think people want to show their appreciation. He's part of a couple playoff runs. Again, scored some big goals, memorable moments, and they were all shown on the highlight reel. And, very touching how when he touched his heart, you saw what it meant to him, that kind of reception. And he's had a tough season. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's been injured.
He's on Montreal.
He's on Montreal, having a tough year. Yeah, 4 points in 16 games. For him, but I thought I was in the Montreal radio booth and they were talking what a great game he was having. He was rewarded with some power play time. So, that was just yet another great moment from last night's game, Huss, which there was one of many. And we didn't even mention, the turning point of the game, Connor Hellebuck stopping Rem Pitlick on the penalty shot. It's 4-4. And I thought, first of all, I didn't even think that should have been a penalty. I thought that was like a poke check from behind where you got
Everything was a penalty last night, and if it was
Yes.
actually a penalty, then it immediately became a penalty shot. If there, I mean that ref was reminded me of Enrico Palazzo in The Naked Gun. I mean, making a ton of calls and really, making sure everyone saw them when they were doing it.
Yeah, like I thought it was nothing play. I thought it was stick on puck. I mean, yeah, it was from behind and the guy was on a breakaway, but I thought it was a nice play to break up a breakaway. Apparently not. And he goes in and you're kind of nervous. Like it's 4-4 game, but you guys Rem Pitlick versus Hellebuck. Hellebuck with the advantage and got the blocker on the puck. And from there, the Jets really, I guess that was the turn where they took over. And Andrew Kopp, again, game winner. Great return to the lineup for Andrew Kopp. I thought that was huge. And, over the last stretch, you kind of just say, okay, yeah, they're missing Perfetti, Kopp, and Ehlers, but I mean, it's huge when you're missing an entire line who can produce offensively. And it was a big win yesterday, but have to continue going forward. And again, I said earlier, it's two worst teams in the league, but you got the wins, and maybe they can make a close at the end for the playoff.
Yeah. Now, Elliot in chat. What up, Elliot? Has just asked. Let me just get back to this. Said, "Hey, Huss, is Gabe Morency a friend of the show? I learned that he is far from a Scheifele fan yesterday. And now Gabe is absolutely a friend of the program. And Gabe and I go way back. I've done so many segments on each other's shows over the year. And for the first thing I'll tell you is that Gabe's from Montreal, and Gabe is a Habs fan. So, and he's got a lot of passion. So he was very pissed last year when what happened to Jake Evans, as anyone connected with the Montreal Canadiens was. He saw, and this kind of gets to my point over, whether what was intended or not, it was how it was taken by people on the other side of things. I think that saw it very differently. And Gabe lit up Scheifele big time last night on Twitter. I mean, you can check it out if you want. He's at Sports Rage. But here's the thing. And this is amazing because it goes back, and these are the two teams with the biggest fan bases in Canada. The two games that these incidences happened, one was Logan Stanley after that skirmish with Simmons when the Jets were laying it on the Leafs on the 5th of December. And the other game was last night against the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this all coming out of the playoffs where Mark Scheifele, who kind of, previously had a bit of a choir boy image in the National Hockey League, saw his, shall we say, his public image around the league take a serious hit. First of all, for, what he did to Jake Evans. Most people didn't like that. And then, many people outside of this market, I think, thought that he did anything but really own it and was somewhat defiant. So when that happened last night, it was absolutely going to trigger a whole lot of people. And it is sort of funny, Remis, and I don't know how we got here, but the Jets, who were sort of an up-and-coming team that a lot of people liked, it was their second favorite team, a few years ago, have kind of turned into villains in a lot of markets in and around the league. And if you told me a few years ago that public enemy number one would be Mark Scheifele, I wouldn't have believed you. But in certain markets, certainly Montreal, he's the guy. And I guess we'll be talking a lot about Neil Pionk when the Jets get to Toronto later on. But it's not the cute, fuzzy Jets from the old days anymore, the way they're looked at around the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget seeing like Mark Scheifele, what they put his face on a cake in IGA in Quebec or something. It said, I forget what it said. I mean, it was, I'll never forget last year being in the chat here. Seeing the Mark Scheifele, hate from the Montreal fans, it got aggressive. It was
it was so over the top.
Yes,
I mean, hockey brings out a lot of passion, especially in Canadians, and playoff hockey, Winnipeg, Montreal, and something like that. That was an absolute powder keg. So, you knew that there would be a lot of people. And while I think with the amount of time that had spent from the event and what's happened with both of the teams, if it just went through yesterday's game and nothing happened, that wouldn't have been shocking to me. But the fact that there was a quote unquote fight with one of the smallest players on the team, like why it was Weidman that challenged him, I have no idea. But as I said, this is far from over.
He doesn't choose. It's not pick your opponent. on the fight. It's not
I'm
his
not
fault.
blaming Scheifele for that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just sort of wondering. It just, of all the players, if you had said to me, hey, one or two guys are going to take a run at Scheif, who is it going to be? It wouldn't be 5'9" Chris Weidman that wasn't even on the team last year.
Yeah, and Scheifele mentioning that it was a chokehold. I don't know if it was maybe more of a headlock, but we're not going to leave the wrestling terms.
Whatever it was.
I did enjoy, Scheifele and Dubois in the post game seem to have, we see people in chat all the time. Scheifele, he's so mad. Dubois passed him on the depth chart. He's taken his spot. And I thought last night they were playing off each other. We saw the clip before. They were laughing. And again, Scheifele, they're finishing each other's sentences now, Huss. They asked, who was Sean Reynolds again, getting the big questions, asking Dubois about, I guess, what's changed in his game, because he was a bit cold and now he's hot. Here's the clip. One sec.
There's some things I can't share too much of, but
So there's been something you've tweaked? Are you telling me in the last little bit?
yeah,
I don't need you to tell me.
yeah. There's some stuff that you're always working on some things.
He's using Head and Shoulders.
More conditioner too.
You like to see them having fun. I think we talk here how the Jets don't seem to be having fun. They're losing. I mean, when you score 8 goals, you're going to be having fun.
Well, you know what? Winning's fun.
Yes.
The teams that seem like, they're having the most fun are ones that are actually meeting their potential. They're winning hockey games. They're getting ready for the playoffs. They're achieving their goals. And there's no doubt. I mean, it's impossible to argue that, the Jets are not where they expected to be right now in this season. And I think that's taken a toll on a lot of players. And but it is also amazing to see what the difference in the vibe a couple wins can do. I mean, even if you're beating the 2 worst teams in the National Hockey League, at this point, take them however you can get them, and don't apologize for it. And, they certainly won't do that. They're going to need to be ready for the Dallas Stars. But man, Reem, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like on that flight from Colorado to Arizona after the game on Friday night with what had happened. And, listen, the game against Arizona was no masterpiece, and neither was last night. But we're not going to critique wins right now. I mean, and I don't think they will either. And you know what? If this team can get a little bit of, if they can start feeling better about themselves, and that means a few more smiling faces and some more excitement to come to the rink, that's a very good thing. And listen, those 2 guys are 2 of the most important players that wear Winnipeg Jet jerseys. They need them both going on. They need them playing off each other on the ice, off the ice too, if that's how it works. And anyways, bottom line is I'm glad you brought that up. It was very nice to see, because Dubois has shown that he is one of the leaders on this team right now. And listen, Mark Scheifele's had a rough season. There's been a lot of questions about a lot of aspects of his game and his future in and around Winnipeg as the organization kind of does an evaluation of why they are where they are right now and goes forward. But the way Pierre-Luc Dubois is both playing and, what he's saying off the ice, I think is exactly what people want to see. And obviously, a lot of Habs fans weren't too pleased with Mark Scheifele last night, but the way he played, the results that he had, and what he's done the last couple games are going to be important. They're going to need a hell of a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And you talk about Dubois. I mean, I remember last year we were wondering about his season. Like, is this the guy that we traded for? I mean, 20 points in 41 games, looked pretty lethargic at times, but he's anything but that this season. Different player. 43 points in 53 games, 22 goals, 21 assists. So he's having a solid season himself here. I see you laughing in chat. I'm also enjoying the chat here. And I wanted to bring this up too, based on a comment I think Mitch made. You see Montreal hate Scheifele, hate him. Toronto, super pissed off at Neil Pionk. It was crazy on social media. Was there any reaction about Orlov when he took out Ehlers? I mean, think about how that changed the Jets season. That illegal hit that he got suspended for wasn't penalized. Is it because it's Washington? It's because I feel like we should be putting Orlov's face on a cake, saying you ruined our season. Public enemy number 1. What are we doing here? When's Washington coming back to Winnipeg? It's really too bad they only come here once, because I don't know when. I think they've played their 2 games against them. They played one there and one here, but we need to get signs.
Yeah, the Washington game here was the day that Paul Maurice packed his bag and walked out of the rink.
Their heads were in another planet for that game. But I think we need Orlov's head on a cake for sure. Get DQ. We'll call up Nick from DQ. Public enemy number 1 next time they come in, and then we'll eat it.
Well, you know what? You're gonna have to put that down on our big board for Winnipeg Sports Talk into next season. Important things that we're planning on doing. Going to take it to a couple trips. We're going to do some shows, and then a full hate campaign against Orlov for what he did to Nikolai Ehlers this season. It might be a year later on, but you're right. It's the onus is on us to not forget about this, to keep on banging this drum, and then expect that the code will be answered when they play next year here in Winnipeg.
We can't. I agree. We can't forget it. For sure, because derailed the whole Jets season not having Nikolai Ehlers. It was an illegal hit, no penalty. It was absolutely ridiculous, and I agree. We do need to put him on the list.
Dom Zappi is in there. If you listen to Montreal Sports Radio, and I spend a lot more time on the Edmonton station if I'm listening to it, just knowing Dusty and liking his show. But he said the media is still over the top. It's amazing how much they hate 55. And that was the case before last night's game. And that is why, just with the way things ended, and listen, we heard it from Josh Anderson. It doesn't matter if Mitch Melnick or Tony Marioni or whoever the guys on 690 in Montreal are going crazy. Although it will stir up a narrative that will get fans going on. There will be a lot of talk about it. But it was quite clear that the Habs weren't too pleased about that. And it is somewhat interesting that there still is one more game between these teams a little bit later on. And you wonder how much of a life of its own that much take of something that really could have and should have been done after last night. Hammer's going to join us in a few minutes. I'm looking forward to that. There is there's a lot to get to from last night's game still. But just quickly, let's touch on Pierre-Luc Dubois for a minute, Reem, because, we just heard him say that, there's some things that he tweaked in his game. Like, I'm not sure whether that's true or not, because he has been like, I'm not sure what tweak you can make that all of a sudden turns you from asleep. I don't know, maybe he's taping his stick differently or something like that. Because we've pretty much seen Pierre-Luc Dubois be the guy that he's been, one of the most consistent players, as I mentioned, through the entire season, going to the net, feeding off his line mates and making his line mates better so far this year. And now, you've got Mark Scheifele producing, and I think really feeling the pressure that, we certainly heard from Blake Wheeler on the weekend talking with Hammer, who's going to join us in a little bit. We'll get to more of that. But man, you've got Dubois playing the way that he's playing. And then the guy that we started off talking about with his recent performance and results is Adam Lowry. And listen, I realize this is a long, long way for the Winnipeg Jets to go to get back into a playoff spot. And they don't have a lot of head-to-head games against the teams they're chasing. But if they want to win and win consistently and string a bunch together, they're going to need all of those guys going right now. And the fact that, Adam Lowry's bringing some scoring from the bottom six right now, and Dubois and Scheifele are both scoring the way that they've been in the last couple of games. If they can keep that going against a much tougher competition the next 3 games, give them a much better chance to stay relevant in this Western Conference playoff race.
Yeah, I think we know that the chances of them making the playoffs, we've looked at the odds, it's slim. However, it's no fun to give up hope. We will hang on to that thin margin and hope they can win every game. And as you said, I mean, it's nice to have Lowry going. You had the top 2 lines going. I thought the power play looked great. Now, this is, again, one of the worst teams in the league. But win's a win. And it doesn't matter. You got the 2 points. Move on to Dallas, and hopefully you can keep it rolling. And maybe, because I think we all believe, Huss, that the team is better than their record would indicate. Although maybe it's not. But I'd like to see them finish strong and, feel good heading into next season. I'm just remembering the optimism of this past off season. And
okay, just for a moment, and this is somewhat morbid, but what was going through your head when the Habs tied it at 4 early in the second period?
I thought here we go again. I was having flashbacks to Friday. I thought, are they going to blow another huge lead? I did not think they'd reverse it. I mean, I saw people were texting us records. I mean, this is the first time in NHL history to blow a 4-goal lead, yet end up winning by 4 goals. I mean, you had 4 unanswered goals happen 3 times in the same game. I can't. Yeah, so yeah, that's first team ever to score 4, allow 4, and then score 4. Yeah, incredible. So that we witnessed history last night at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, that was that was certainly something else. I was sitting there and I was going, my God, I can't believe that today's show we're going to be talking about this if it continues to go the way it is.
Oh,
I was just thinking about how bent everyone would be and how some people wouldn't even be able to come and listen to the show because they would be so triggered after what happened the day before. But I was also thinking, Remis, oh my God, I'm going to have to finally roll out my top 5 worst home Monday and Tuesday game list of the season. And that would have been a contender for a top one with a few other real turds. But it turned around, and to me, it turned around on that Connor Hellebuck save. Andrew Kopp scoring afterwards. We mentioned how big it was to get him back in the lineup, and ended up being 8-4. And you mentioned a crazy record set by the Jets that had never happened before.
Yeah, I mean, we looked, and we talked yesterday. We couldn't believe how big favorites the Jets were. It was like minus 205 or something. But clearly, Vegas knew something. Scored 8 goals, pretty incredible. So, well, again, what a game, and happy to be here talking about a win rather than a lose.
Lynn Reimer, I reached for the gravel at that point with a vodka chaser. Yeah, you probably weren't the only one, Lynn. All right, we're going to get Hammer in here in a minute. What an interesting week our friend Jeff's had in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press. Before we do that, a big shout out to our friends at Manitoba Battery. Man, this winter sucked, but Manitoba Battery's been keeping Winnipeggers and Manitobans on the road with batteries at the best prices in town. If you need a battery for pretty much anything, support local and get it at the best possible price from Donnie and the gang over on Logan Avenue at Manitoba Battery. Most automotive batteries starting at $100 with core exchange, and they'll deliver it to you anywhere in the city for $115 on the same day as long as you get that order in by 1:30 p.m. As we look ahead to the summer, I mean, your boats, ATV batteries, everything under the sun, they've got that. But of course, there's still some time in ice fishing season left. And Manitoba Battery's got the flasher batteries to keep you on the ice and catching fish all winter long. Pop down and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. The phone number is 204-783-8787, or you can see them online at manitobabattery.com. And I saw quite a few interesting Jets jerseys last night. Heck, and Habs jerseys as well. And, whether you're a fan of the home team or somebody else, probably popping by the Superstore at Royal Sports to get your gear. Thousands upon thousands of pieces of Jets merchandise, tons of exclusives, along with all the Grey Cup merchandise from your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But it's not just the home team. The best selection of NHL gear from the Jets to the Seattle Kraken at Royal Sports, and not to mention NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, though we're not talking about baseball right now until they get their shit together. But that being said, Royal Sports is your sports superstore, not to mention hockey, fitness, snowboards, so much more, and tons of cool stuff on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. Pop down and see him at 750 Pembina Highway, and follow him on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and deals. And I got to give a special thanks to Trevor Knott. Went to the game with Trev, always a great time. Planning a couple, maybe a cool little Knott Autocorp WST roadshow south of the border. Keep you posted on that over the next little while. But of course, Knott Autocorp is the place that's been getting Winnipeggers and Manitobans into new cars at amazing deals for well over a decade. Another great local family-owned business. That is the place where you should start any search for a new ride for you or your family. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? Pop down and see them at Waverly and McGilvery, or check them out online at knott.ca. We will talk a little Moose later on, and the guy that went viral on Sunday, Jeff Malott's going to join us. Looking forward to talking to him a little bit about his career so far this season for he and his Moose teammates, as well as the show-stopping end to the shootout on Sunday. But right now, let's welcome in our friend Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press, who looks like he's back in Winnipeg from quite an eventful trip. What's going on, dude? Welcome back.
Yeah, can you see a little bit of the sun? I tried to soak up as much as I could in Arizona, but yeah, just a wild trip. It was about as bad for me and my travel arrangements as it was for the Jets in the win-loss category. But overall, it's always fun to get out on the road and cover this team. And it was particularly nice after, an incredibly cold Calgary, followed by an ice storm in Dallas, followed by, whatever kind of cold weather in Denver. So boo-hoo, but it was nice to hang out in the sun a little bit in Arizona.
Well, we've got a lot to unpack. I'll tell you what, let's yeah, exactly. I mean, we just spent the first 45 minutes talking about last night's game. So I mean, we certainly can get to that. But first and foremost, tell us about Saturday. I mean, thank God we had boots on the ground by someone in the Winnipeg media, because we would have missed some classic bad mood Blake on Saturday afternoon coming off that, really almost a humiliating victory for the Winnipeg Jets. And, he didn't come out and probably would have been spitting absolute fire after the game on Friday, but still sort of seemed to be in that mood on Saturday afternoon. It got a lot of traction. I know I've seen your comments on it before, but you can tell us a little bit about your views of the interaction and where the captain was going into a game that they absolutely had to have, which of course they did pull out of the fire in the third period on a goal by Blake Wheeler.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a bit of a nothing burger as far as the interaction between Blake and I. I mean, we all know how crusty Blake can be, this particularly when things aren't going well, as this season, certainly falls into that category. It's been an up and down one, and an up and down one for the captain as well. I mean, he's faced Blake's, got COVID early on, which set him back. He had just started to kind of hit his groove after that, and then got a serious knee injury. And, so it's been, it's certainly been an interesting season for him. And as for the exchange, I mean, you could tell right away when Blake came out that he wasn't in the most talkative mood. And when, you can get a little bit of an indicator when the team and, the team reporters ask him a question and he's not all that thrilled. So I knew, by, asking him about the leadership group and particularly their responsibility in where the Jets are, and more importantly, where they're headed. I knew it wasn't going to be the easiest, back and forth with them, but I also didn't think it would, necessarily go the way it went. Like I said, I mean, that's an exchange between a reporter and a player. I mean, it's not the first time that, emotions are going to fly, and it's not going to be the last time. And look, it's interesting too, because, when it gets tweeted out, it creates a whole kind of, beast of its own. People who, are staunch supporters of Blake Wheeler or don't like media or, combination of the two are going to, you're just going to pick sides, right? You're just going to be like, well, it's almost kind of was painted into a right and wrong situation. And I felt like, and then there's the assumptions that, Blake Wheeler and I have a history. We don't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
We don't have a history. I mean, we've gotten into it in the past, but by no means, whether he would remember it, I doubt it. I mean, I to be honest with you, I think I have an okay relationship as far as a relationship you can have with the captain. Blake isn't, huge into developing professional relationships with reporters. So it's not like, it's not like he was saying stuff like, I'm out here talking to you, like he wasn't saying you, Jeff Hamilton, he was saying you, the media, and so, I mean, that's one thing. The other assumption is that like somehow I was playing the victim. That couldn't be further from the truth. That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, Blake Wheeler doesn't owe me anything as far as answers. I challenged him on, his suggestion that he doesn't get positive press here, which he claimed to be sarcastic. Well, if you listen back, I mean, yeah, he's got a bit of sarcastic tone to him, at the best of times, but he was kind of playing his small violin in the sense that he was complaining about having, the rough times be bad. I mean, this guy has had way more good times than rough times. I mean, and there's absolutely no debate that Blake Wheeler is one of the most celebrated players in Jets history. That's just a fact. And so, kind of feeling sorry for himself. I felt a little bit, and self-congratulations about, coming out there and like speaking volumes that he's talking to the media. Again, owes me nothing as far as, answers, questions of which I spent time crafting not to piss off 26. That didn't exactly work in my favor, but the exchange was the exchange. And again, I think you just move on and whatever. These things get blown up. People like to choose sides. I'll echo, I don't feel like a victim in that whole situation, and appreciate any answer I get. But I do think that, Blake being the captain of this team not, living up to the expectations, certainly Blake has not talked, to the media as much as he has in the past. And that's pretty much facilitated by this whole, Zoom or COVID environment. Whereas if it was open locker rooms, Blake was always there sitting by his stall for anyone to come over and chat with. So, credit there, but that certainly hasn't been the case this season. And again, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where, he's not happy with the questions. He's not happy, being questioned, I guess, on the leadership.
Well, I think he's not happy with being the captain of a team that has, to most people's expectations, underperformed the way it is. And let's face it, the timing of that game. I mean, there's been some ugly games this season, but the game on Friday night, because of the way they started, the 3-0 lead, and then the thorough ass kicking that took place for the following 40 minutes. Honestly, I mean, there's not really much that you can say. And, there were some questions that he really didn't have answers for, but it's sort of part of the job to go and, at least take the questions. And, Steelen Reimer saying, he might not owe the media.
Well, I was going to say he owes the fans. That's what I was about to. That was my whole point as I was meandering off there, was that he doesn't owe me anything, but he owes the fans those answers, and that's why I asked those questions. You know what I mean? It's not like I have this personal interest in knowing like what's the deal with Maurice leaving, if that's created a wrinkle, why the top two lines aren't clicking at the same time as we've seen all season. It's usually one or the other, and again, I mean, the other part is I don't deserve credit for tough questions. I felt like the first one was a softball, just lob it up there to take a bit of ownership, and not just personal ownership, but just as the leadership group. We all know that, part of being on a captain or an alternate captain is shouldering, the blame when, things are going not so well, because you get the praise when things are going well. So, so I don't even deserve that credit for, I appreciate the support, but like the credit for asking tough questions. I don't think they were all that tough at all. And so, some of them were a bit more challenging. I think, Blake did answer the rest of the questions. I thought he was great on them. It's just, he didn't, some of them he just doesn't have answers to those questions, and that is an answer. And so the rest of it was fine. I just think it comes across a little bit like out of touch, just given, where this team is and when the answers the fans want, and, kind of just patting yourself on the back for doing what, a job that you're kind of expected to do when you wear the C on your chest. But I mean, all in all, I mean, people are going to pick sides, they're going to do whatever, they're going to make up, stuff, but it was just a conversation, and we'll have more of them down the road. I don't see
just quickly on that. After the game, the guy that did talk, that apparently wanted to talk, was Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I mean, we talk about many things speaking volumes. I thought that as much as anything spoke to how he is really becoming a leader on this team, regardless of who's wearing just letters on their jerseys right now. He did it with his play. I mean, he was the best player on the ice by far, and I mean, really sort of put his team on his back in that first period to get that lead. I mean, it was certainly part of the misery of the final 40 minutes, but he's been speaking a lot lately. I mean, certainly if we were ticking off every time guys come out, I think Dubois would be at the top. But he's doing it off the ice, but man, he's also doing it on the ice as well, Jeff.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and I think he probably bit his tongue more than he wanted to after that press conference. Because I mean, if you watch the end of the game, I mean, that guy was seeing red, passionate about where the Jets had fallen to in that game. And so, look, I mean, there's also media requests. So a lot of the time, just given the way Blake is, sometimes when you only get two guys to talk, he's not necessarily the most ideal guy to talk post game, because is that fierce passion that he has, that fierce competitiveness can come out, a little bit aggressive. And, if he's not gonna want to answer questions at that moment, that's fine. But when you're writing a story, you need two guys to talk. So the Pierre-Luc Dubois has kind of been the perfect request, if you will, because he more often than not he's impacting the game, and he's also not afraid to speak his mind or take tough questions or all those things that you need out of a guy in a post-game press conference. So yeah, I mean certainly 80's been living up to the hype, if you will. He's had a great season. He got back on track this last trip, even though the win-loss results weren't there after a bit of a not necessarily a slide in his play, but a slide in his point production. But yeah, I mean, certainly lots to say about him. 23 years old. Who knows? He could be the future leadership of this group if he, he's certainly being leaned on in that respect when it comes to speaking for the team.
Yeah, well, I mean, the performance speaks volumes right now. And again, huge part of the game last night is the first star last night between the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. All right, I got to ask you this. How in the world did this interview with Paul Stastny come together? Tell us about it. And I guess my first question is, why is this a story? Like, why was this even something that you were talking about, writing about, that has now become, well, to some people, a big deal?
Well, I mean, why is it a story? I mean, it's a story because you're a millionaire hockey player in the city that lives in the States supporting a Canadian protest. And so, I mean, realistically, Jets fans want to know when a player farts. So the idea that you have a player putting forth, a financial commitment to, something that is very polarizing in this country, I thought warranted a story. And here's the thing: I wasn't demanding anything. This is where I think the misconceptions come into play here. I went to the Jets. I think it's tough to interview a player who did this and just kind of forget about it and just stick to hockey questions. So I felt like Paul Stastny was whether it was gonna be in Winnipeg, whether it was gonna be a road trip down the, if they go to Toronto or any other kind of like heavier media market, someone's gonna ask. I mean, you're not, whether or not you deem this a story or a valuable story, somebody is going to ask. So I approached the Jets, feeling a bit uncomfortable to interview him otherwise. Like, if he kept on coming out and I was part of that scrum, I just feel like it's an important thing to address. Gave him the opportunity to kind of explain himself. He didn't have to, there was no forcing on my end. He wanted to talk. He wanted to share his opinion. And the other part about it too is the reason why I even request is I've had conversations with Paul Stastny, one-on-ones, telephone interviews. I've done a bit of a profile on him prior to last season. And I've always come away with, a guy who is well-read, well-educated, has, it's not very often, I'm not trying to stereotype all hockey players, but it's not very often you have the kind of player like Paul Stastny who takes, interest in politics and interest in, things outside of hockey. You know what I mean? He's like I said, he's very well-read. He's very well, he speaks well, he's got opinions, and I figured he would want to talk, and I was right. So it took a couple days, and ultimately just, he spoke on camera, for a few questions about the game, and I just, it was directly after my interview with Blake. So it was a bit of an interesting career one too. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I wrestled for a few days on how to be fair. I'm a reporter. I mean, this idea of bias being, unbiased, I think is a little bit, an interesting concept because we all have our own personal biases. We all, we have our own personal life experiences. And I think for me, if you look at my work, I've always thought it important to not necessarily agree with opinions, but give people the opportunity to explain themselves. So, I did that interview on the Saturday, and I didn't write it till Monday. And I just kind of thought about how I wanted to portray, because I knew it was going to be a polarizing issue. I mean, so did the Jets, and so does Paul Stastny. I mean, we live in a world now where very often, you kind of pick a side, and then, a lot of people are pretty quick to, shoot their opinions and get in fights and whatever. And I mean, I kind of, in a weird way, understand kind of both sides in a sense. I'm not talking about necessarily like, the comments about people being like, well, he's got a right to his own opinion, right? And there's people who's like, his opinion's trash, and like, how can you think that and all that stuff? And I mean, it's not like for me, it was just to kind of try to get an understanding on why, someone who plays in the National Hockey League here in Winnipeg felt compelled to dip into his pockets. I mean, and financially support them. If you think about it, Paul Stastny's made more than $80 million American in his career, and he threw $1,000 to this thing. That's like me flipping a quarter to the convoy. So like, I mean, but what I felt was interesting was just kind of where he came from. I don't think he comes from I think he comes from a place, obviously he has the history with his parents who defected from Czechoslovakia, from a communist regime. And so I don't even know if it's necessarily he thinks Canada is a communist regime. Clearly he doesn't think that, but I think what he supports in all this, and I felt like, I hope that, was portrayed in my story, was that he believes in people who fight for a cause and government overreach. So whether you agree if the government is government overreach or not, which is a big polarizing issue, I think Paul Stastny believes in the right and freedom to protest what you believe to be overreach from the government. And I think that's why he supported it. He was very clear he doesn't support, right-wing extremists, which there are some people that are connected to this convoy. There's absolutely no doubt about that, some of whom are organizers. And I also don't think he necessarily, is sitting at home watching Fox News and reading Rebel News. I think he's genuinely curious on why those people on the right side feel the way they do, and why the people on, if you will, the left side feel the way that they do. I think he has a thirst for knowledge on why people think the way they do. However, it's a bit of you draw a bit of a line in the sand when you financially support, a group. And I'm not going to sit here and get political and debate on, what the meaning of the convoy, is and whatever. But I do think there's, an element there where he didn't agree with the border lockdowns. But then on the other side, you go, well, then why are you supporting money that would go directly to doing those kind of activities? And then there's lots of things about the convoy that made me sick. You know what I mean? The treatment of reporters, the blatant, I don't know, lack of awareness, if you will, particularly when you start looking at, what your freedoms are and what Canada brings and versus, what's happening right now in the Ukraine and people who are really losing, their full freedoms. But again, it feels like a bit of a lose-lose argument, particularly online. And I just felt with Paul Stastny, I knew he was going to give, whether you agree with him or not, I knew he was going to give full answers. And I knew he was going to tell his truth. And, whether you like his opinion or disagree with his opinion, that's not, up to me. I'm just explaining to you why he did what he did.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, I get it. I was really surprised that, he was available to speak to that. Because again, this was something, and I don't even know when this donation, and God knows I don't want to get too much into this, but when the donation was made, I think there's a lot of people that had, and listen, I don't share these views, but I do understand that, I mean, life is not all our echo chamber on our Twitter feed, and it's also not all the people that are, camped out downtown in front of the ledge. I mean, most of the people are somewhere in the middle. But when, he went to speak to this, like, you're right. I mean, I don't think there's a win involved for it whatsoever, but I do also think that there's probably some people that, had particular concerns that wanted to support some sort of challenge to what had been going on. And maybe were horrified by some of the things that were at least reported and some of the people they found out afterwards. And I don't want to get into all of that. The one thing that I'm finding out, I mean, if we really wanted to dig into everything that these guys think or support, I mean, I'm sorry, folks. I mean, you're going to be disappointed in a lot of your heroes. a lot of the people that, you support on a lot of other things. And I guess at one point, I mean, why the hell should we care, who's doing, who has, particular leanings to that side, or who's liking Ron DeSantis tweets on Twitter, or those sort of things. I mean, at what point is it an actual story? And as I said, the cooperation from that side of things was the thing that kind of really surprised me. And I do think it was a very fair piece. I was just surprised that it actually was something that anyone was willing to engage that, made it to the Free Press.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I think, I was a bit surprised. I mean, it doesn't feel like a winning situation for a hockey player. And, and then there's the argument fairly that, his personal information was leaked. And like, and that's why I think, like, whether, people suggest, I've gotten, my inbox is just bananas.
I was going to ask you about that.
I've been blamed for Putin. I've been blamed for what's going on in Ukraine. I've been blamed for a lot of things. And like people, some people said, well, you went too soft on him. Well, what do you mean I went too soft on him? I question him on a lot of different things. I question him on his, on some of the things he said that just are not true or not in the story. And the thing is that I'm not like, I think we get this and maybe it's with Twitter, right? Because you see these Jet beat reporters, you see, beat reporters, not just in Winnipeg, but everywhere, just voicing their opinion nonstop on every single thing that exists. And it's like, I just don't need to hear sports reporters' opinions on everything. It's nauseating. And so like when people have now been just absolutely bombarded with like, reporters' opinions on Twitter where you don't write that way. Like that's not my job. My job isn't to be the moral compass for everybody. My job is to write a story based on what someone is sharing with me. Paul Stastny's interview or that story was in the sports section because people care about what the Winnipeg Jets do. It wasn't on A1. It wasn't sitting there. You know what I mean? Sports fans want to know, supporters want to know about the people that are on the ice and their opinions. And like, it's great when you can dig into their past and talk about how, they hated losing as a kid. And this is what, mom and dad say about them. Well, this is another element of that. People want to know who these people are outside of the rink. And my job isn't to say, hey, man, that's stupid that you listen to Fox News or you listen to, or you read both sides of the spectrum. Like, we're getting into this world where it's like, I just find it just exhausting on Twitter where it's like, I got to give my opinion on every single thing. Like, I'm just a human being too. I'm here to listen, ask questions, and write stories that are, that are balanced and weighted in that respect, not spewing my opinion. And if for some reason I write a story like this, I find myself on whatever end, like, you don't know me. Like this, you're not supposed to know me in this story. I'm not supposed to be part of this story. I'm supposed to explain it. And I think a lot of the times things get blurred from, sports fans and just people in general that like, people who are opining on everything and, on Twitter, all of a sudden that needs to seep into your story. Well, no, that's not the case. And in fact, that's not journalism. That's in a lot of ways can be irresponsible.
Hey, let me ask you this just before we move on from this, but I do have one question and I'm interested in this and I'm sure some other people are. You're the big J, Journo. I am a guy that, fires off hot takes and cracks jokes and has fun on, I'm a YouTuber, in fact, actually, Jeff. The fact that this was an anonymous donation originally that was, supposed to be that, and I guess like this thing got hacked or whatever, and then it got put out to expose everyone there. Was there any issue with that? Like, does that give you pause or was that an issue, I guess, when you decided as to how to ask for this or go into that? Does that change anything?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, and that's why but here's the thing, like I said off the top, like I don't have any expectation. I'm not demanding or banging down the doors of the Jets and being like, you need to answer for this, or you need to do this. I just gave the opportunity, you'll look at my,
and he took it. I mean,
they took it. And I mean, I think there's an understanding that, if you don't address it, first of all, you might want to address it. Two, if you don't address it, you're probably going to, it's probably going to get brought up somewhere. And when you don't address it, I think people think you let opinions run wild, right? I mean, people just assume, that if you support the trucker convoy, that you're a right-wing extremist and all these things. And I'm sure that they read a bunch of stuff online, and the disappointment. And again, I don't know necessarily if people read that and change their opinion, or if it's worse or whatever it is. But I think it's, does it give me pause? Sure. I mean, it's different than the Kevin Cheveldayoff stuff, right? With the whole Blackhawks sexual assault scandal. That's something I'm a lot more educated in. There's certain things about that where I do think you need to be, there's a responsibility and accountability there. Whereas this one was a bit different. So yeah, did it give me pause to approach it or write the story? Sure. But I also, like I said, I didn't demand anything, and it is what it is. I mean,
everyone in the chat just wants to know more about the farting habits of the Jets that you brought up at the beginning of the program. Jeff Hamilton, the Free Press, is with us. Let's move on. I mean, last night's game was absolutely bananas. It started off with, a moment that I don't think anyone was at the building or watching it will ever forget, with the Ukrainian anthem. And what a ridiculous roller coaster. 4-0, 4-4, an 8-4 win. Just quickly before we look ahead to Dallas, I am of the opinion that, whatever happened with the quote unquote fight between Weidman and Scheifele was whatever. But that his gesture at the end, while maybe self-depreciating or well-intentioned or just sort of fun, was gas on this fire. We heard from Josh Anderson afterwards, and I think this is less put to bed now than it was at any point in last night's game until that fight happened.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think that a team loves, like Toronto's certainly going to remember Logan Stanley throwing his hands in the air. Like, it's just, you remember those things as opponents. I mean, those are, whether you're at the NHL level or lower. I mean, those are things that kind of stick out. It's funny, Huss, because I didn't really get the whole, playing sports before. I mean, there's the kind of stuff where, like, you get in a fight, and if you don't get the best out of the guy, then, you maybe wait for next game. I didn't really think much about that hit and retribution from Montreal heading into this one. And maybe that, maybe that's just on me, but I felt like, but then when I started to think about it more, obviously Mark did not see anything wrong with his hit. So there was really no apology afterwards. There was, in fact, he was quite defiant in his, in his meeting with the NHL, and pretty much showed up to that meeting being like, well, what am I doing here? Like, are we really going to, is this really suspendable? And yada. So he didn't show much remorse. So I thought maybe there would be something there, but it's behind both teams. I mean, Montreal has a ton to figure out this season, and the Jets obviously have, the hill in front of them. And I thought maybe because both teams would be emotional for different reasons, just what's going on this year, that something might happen. I didn't think it'd be Mark Scheifele fighting. I thought, hey, maybe Ben Sherratt and Blake Wheeler would go. They went and practiced one time. Maybe they'd go in a game. But so when that all went down, I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of remember, and maybe there will be more to it, but it won't be because Mark Scheifele, blasted Jake Evans on that hit. It will be because he fought Weidman, who's 5'9" and he's 6'3". So, I think it'd be more of like, okay, fight someone your own size before you start kind of cheering up the crowd in a fight that literally lasted, like, what did it last? 3 seconds before he was on the ground?
Like, that wasn't even a fight. If that happens in the second period, they're getting 2 minutes for roughing.
Exactly. So, like, I just felt like it was a bit of an overreaction from Mark because you didn't win it.
Well, that's why I thought it was almost joking. I thought it was sort of sheepishly going, going off. And he said afterwards,
I think you're just more or less pissed off if you're the Habs, because this guy seems to be celebrating a fight that was A, not against the guy really his size, and B, celebrating off there like he just dusted him. You know what I mean? So it's you're right. You have the whole, first of all, you have the playoff series, and we all know what playoff series do for teams. They create these rivalries, so you have that already. Now you have this piece to the puzzle. This they're going to play again this year, and you can almost guarantee there's going to be retribution this time based on
Josh
strictly the showboating.
Josh Anderson said after the game they weren't like it, and it's a good thing that they play each other again later on this season.
Oh, for sure.
For something that, that no one wanted to have any part of. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think the Habs did either. I mean, the guy that stepped to Scheifele was Chris Weideman, who, as you mentioned, is 5'9". The dude was not even on the Habs last year during the playoff series. It was one of the precarious things, and maybe I'm sure they were having
We've seen that before in the past, though. It doesn't really matter who was on that team, and then it's who's on that team now and who's willing to kind of stick up. And I mean, at the time too, Montreal was losing. They needed a bit of they were pissed off. You know what I mean? Like if Montreal is up 2 goals in that game, then it's not, then that's probably not happening, or it's being instigated by Mark, so but you know what? Great. I'd like to see more drama, because a lot of the times these games don't get the buildup that you want out of them. And, hopefully Jets are still playing meaningful hockey when these two teams meet again.
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, I mean, 3 more massive games. They're moving up a couple weight classes over these next 3. Dallas, must win game in the division. Their last chance to go at it against the Stars for the season. And then the Rangers and Tampa coming up. Listen, Hammer, great stuff. Always appreciate your frankness, your honesty, and keep up the great work in the Winnipeg Free Press. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, always a pleasure. Shout out to the commenters. Maybe we'll talk sports and not as much my job next time I'm on, but we'll enjoy it. I enjoy every bit of it.
I've got some great ideas for some future articles for you. I'll send you an email, some all across the board.
That doesn't go just for you. Anybody else? You got story ideas, send them my way. Be
all
kind.
Right, beat it. Thanks, buddy. There it is. Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. Really looking forward to this next segment. But first up, a big cheers to our friends over at Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite local beer. Over 5 years here in the city, down at their amazing spot on William Avenue. If you haven't popped down there to try some pints of your favorite Little Brown Jugs, what are you waiting for? And while you're there, you can grab the great 1919, the Anniversary Brut IPA, the Little Brown Jug Double, which is so popular at this time of year. Heck, try a bunch of them in the winter variety pack. Now, you can get it downtown on William Avenue at Little Brown Jug HQ at the brewery and tap room. You can grab it at your local beer store, liquor marts as well, or grab a 1919 the next time you're at fine bars and restaurants throughout the city. Don't forget, Little Brown Jug does deliver Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Go online to littlebrownjug.ca, get your order, and get it delivered to you. Hey, Briar gets going tomorrow. I mentioned Colton Lott's been added to the Buffalo Boys and Team Manitoba. Mike McEwen and his rank looking to get to the top of Canadian men's curling. And of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsor of Team McEwen. In addition to being a great sponsor of curling and a supporter of the sport, and of course, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 local locations, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. And great night last night. Popped into Boston Pizza at City Place afterwards for a couple to see what else was going on in the National Hockey League. BP is always the place to go for the big game. If you don't have a ticket, pop down, enjoy those gourmet pizzas, Boston's wings, ice cold schooners, and more. Of course, Jets going at it with Dallas. And if you're not in the building, Boston Pizza is your next best spot. But you can always order the great taste of BP by going online to bostonpizza.com. All right, we're going to talk a little Moose right now. A guy that made a lot of news and certainly spent a lot of time on your Twitter and Instagram feeds on the weekend joins us now. He was the walk-off hero from the big win over their rival Chicago Wolves on Sunday afternoon. Moose leading goal scorer Jeff Malott joins us now. Jeff, what's going on? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good. It's going great. Listen, we'll talk about Sunday in a minute, but first off, this is the first time we've had you on the program. You're having another great season. How are you enjoying being a member of the Manitoba Moose and cutting your teeth as a pro here in the Peg?
Yeah, it's been a great start. I mean, it's nice to stay in Canada. I'm from Toronto originally, so it's nice to stay north of the border for sure to start my career, but also just a great place to play. I mean, there's so much support from the city, and I've really been enjoying the coaching staff here. So it's been an awesome year and a half so far.
Let's take back. I mean, you mentioned that you are Canadian, I believe, from the Burlington area, but you played junior out in Brooks, and then ended up doing 4 years at a really prestigious university in Cornell. Fill us a little bit on your backstory, Jeff.
Yeah. So I started my first year of junior B in Ontario in the GOJHL, and ended up playing junior for 2 years in Alberta, and played for the Brooks Bandits, a great program there, and really learned a lot, and ended up earning a spot at Cornell University for 4 years. And I think, that's a pretty historic program there, and I think they did a great job of getting me ready for pro hockey. So lucky enough to land a spot here in Manitoba.
Well, tell us about the move to Alberta. I mean, there's no shortage of places to play in Ontario. What was it that got you out to Brooks?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know much about the program when they started recruiting. They kind of had to fill me in and get me familiar with Alberta hockey, just because, being from Ontario, you kind of think that, hockey in Canada kind of revolves around the Toronto area, the GTA. So,
you don't say.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a learning curve to kind of figure out what Alberta hockey was all about. But I mean, they did a great job in the recruiting process and kind of let me know about their success and how many Division I commits they had in their program in recent years. And, it just sounded like a great setup for me. And, I was really happy I made the move.
Was that the goal at the time? I mean, you wanted to get to the NCAA and use your hockey to, be able to, play and earn a scholarship? Because obviously, if you go to the OHL or the Western Hockey League, that isn't an option.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was kind of buying a couple more years to develop. I'm a bit of a late bloomer, and I didn't really grow till, a little later in my minor hockey career. So it was nice to look at college as an opportunity to kind of buy, 4 more years and enter pro at, 22 instead of trying to crack it at 19, 20 years old.
How'd you end up last year with the Moose?
As in, how did I land with the Moose, or how'd the year go?
Yeah, no. First of all, how did you land with the Moose? I mean, what came? I mean, you played a few games in the East Coast League, but then came here and scored 14 goals, had a great rookie pro season. But you probably you finished college and you're an undrafted player. You've got a lot of options. How did it come about?
Yeah, it was weird. It was right when COVID hit. Our season was cut short, and so there wasn't really a big emphasis on landing free agents, just because teams wanted to know what they were up to next year, and weren't so focused on getting guys out of college. They were more concerned with their season. So I was lucky to get in contact with Craig Heisinger, and I think once I saw that opportunity come about, and not very many opportunities arise because of COVID, I think I just kind of jumped on it right away. And everything I'd heard about the Moose as an organization was so positive, and I'd heard how well they treated guys here, how well they focused on development, and how great of a city it is to play in. So I think, basically as soon as the opportunity was offered, I kind of jumped all over it.
Well, of course, you parlayed that into a two-way deal, signing with the National Hockey League club. And it's got to be interesting. I mean, full disclosure, I was one of the first employees with the Moose back in the late 90s, spent a lot of time with the club, but it was a very different time then. It was the International Hockey League, then it was the American League, but we were the affiliate of the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, now the National Hockey League team is just down the hallway in a lot of ways. I mean, tell us about signing that deal, but also knowing that you're there. It's been a crazy season. I mean, you're always one step away from the National Hockey League, and how has that been better for you? I mean, if you're in the American League, to be there, within the organization in such close contact with people that can hopefully help you, advance as a pro.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just being in the same city offers, a whole nother level of exposure, and there's always people in the building that are watching. So I think that was definitely a big bonus for me, and something that a lot of people really appreciate when they get a chance to be a part of this organization.
So let's talk about this season. It has been nuts. And I mean, the Moose are much like so many teams in both the American Hockey League, and the trickle down goes down to the East Coast League, where, you've got like 90% of the National Hockey League at some point getting COVID. Probably the same thing, in the American League as well. And at times, half the team is no longer part of your team, and you're introducing yourself to guys in pregame warmups. And yet through all of this, you guys have continued to be, one of the top teams in the conference right now. How have you done it, and what's the season been like for you and your teammates?
Yeah, it's been wild. It's been up and down so much, and so many, guys coming in and doing a great job of filling spots, and it's so hard to predict what next week will look like, or there've been times in the season where you didn't know what tomorrow would look like, just because so many changing parts. But we've had a bunch of guys come in, and we've been really, really fortunate that they've been big contributors for us. And I think one of the things that made us a really good team last year was how close we were, and kind of how welcoming everybody was. And I think that has led really well into this year and allowed us to make sure everybody is up to speed right away, and everybody knows that whether they're there for a couple days or a couple games, or they're there to help out for the remainder of the season. I mean, everybody, I think, feels welcome and feels valued, and I think that's another reason why we kind of have been able to manage this crazy whirlwind season with so many changing parts.
Well, I mean, there's been so many different players that have stepped up over the course of the year. And, I think about a guy like, Phil DeRozier who came in, or an Evan Cormier who came in as well, playing goal. I mean, it's a pretty important position. These guys coming in, hi, nice to meet you, and go out and put big wins together. And tell us about the coaching staff as well. I mean, Mark Morrison's back with the organization his first year as head coach. How have you enjoyed playing for him, and how's that helping you continue on?
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, he's such an even keel presence in our locker room, and he's done such a good job of understanding that there's these moving parts, and how unpredictable everything has been. He's kind of been our backbone this year in terms of just keeping us focused and making sure we're ready to kind of adapt on the fly. One thing he's just been preaching all year is just making sure everybody's prepared no matter what the scenario is, because I mean, you could be a left winger on the third line one day, and next day you're a first line right winger, and it's like you're kind of doing this juggling act, trying to just be ready for anything. And Mo's done a great job of making sure everybody's up to speed, and I think he's been a huge part of the success we've had this year for sure.
You continue to lead the team with 14 goals. Tell people I know it's been, as we've just talked about, there's been a lot of different dudes in and out of the lineup, but who have you been playing with the most right now, and who are you most familiar with amongst line mates?
Yeah, right now I'm really fortunate to have David Gustafsson back with the Moose for a little while. We played together all last year, and him and I seem to have just some natural chemistry, and I definitely benefited off of getting to play my first year pro with him. He's just such a stable, consistent presence, and he's good in all three zones and all scenarios, and he's got experience in the National League as well. He's somebody who really sets the bar in terms of compete level and consistency on our team. And I'm lucky to have Dave back for I think we've played maybe the last 5 games or so together, but Dave's been awesome to play with this year. And then as of recently, Mike Yasimon has been with us, and we've been finding some good chemistry as well. So I think, it's been changing every week, and everybody's getting to play with everyone else. But again, I think it's just a matter of guys being ready to jump in there and contribute any way they can. And it's been working well for us, I guess.
Jeff Malott of the Manitoba Moose is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Fun weekend with a couple of the afternoon games against the Chicago Wolves, and back at it Thursday against the Rockford Ice Hogs, and then a 2:00 game, which I believe is the Autism Awareness game, and we'll have some tickets for that, which we'll give away heading into the weekend here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But that's 2:00 game, Manitoba hosting Rockford. You turn a lot of heads on Sunday afternoon, finishing off the Wolves, and I can say that as a longtime Moose guy. There's no better rivalry than Chicago, so if anyone was going to do that, do it against the Wolves. Let's just play this for you right now for folks that are watching on YouTube. Maybe some people maybe missed it. This is the walk-off shootout winner by Jeff Malott from Sunday afternoon.
The Moose come back to win this one, 4-3. Jeff Malott won it in overtime on.
Here's one more view of it. All right, I laughed so hard watching this, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. Was this a spur of the moment decision, or did you realize, hey, if we can end this right now, we've got plans, we've got places to go, I'm out of here, to take us back to Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't premeditated or anything. I played when I played junior B in Ontario. My first year junior, we had an assistant coach, Mark Johnson, who used to always say, if we seal the deal in overtime, we're getting out of here. And we just get out of there as quick as possible. And I mean, I think we might have done it once or twice that year, but it wasn't premeditated or anything. I just kind of turned the corner. I saw the door open. I was like, the guys might get a laugh out of this. So.
Oh, I'm sure they did. What was the reaction from the boys back when you were waiting for them in the room once they took care of the rest of business on the ice?
I know, yeah. I think Johnny Kovacevic was the first one to come down, and Johnny and I are really close. We're roommates on the road, and a lot of times we're just like, just kind of like have a good laugh together. But it was funny. Johnny was the first one to come down and celebrate, but I don't know. We were all just kind of laughing, and guys were like, "What?" Guys were kind of asking, like, again, the same questions: was it premeditated or what? But no, it's fun. It's just nice in the locker room after a big win like that, because we have been struggling a little bit lately, and getting a win against a team like Chicago in a tight playoff race is something that brought us a lot of energy, and we're kind of just happy to celebrate in the locker room after.
Let's no time to waste. Get to the locker room and get after it. What was your phone like on Sunday night afterwards? Because this thing took to the internet and was everywhere.
Yeah, no, we're kind of just laughing in the locker room. Like, guys, I didn't have my phone on me, and guys from our training staff and guys from our medical staff are showing me, funny pages that were getting a hold of it. But guys were having a good time in the comments. Guys were pretending to be fans, getting mad at me for not celebrating with the guys or making up funny scenarios and stuff. But we were just out, we were out having a couple of drinks and just kind of laughing about the comments and everything. It was a good time.
Oh man, well, listen, a big 2 points after a tough one on Saturday afternoon, and I mean, Chicago's such a good team right now. I mean, a real good team for you guys to measure where you're at right now. Of course, 2 big games against Rockford coming up on Tuesday and Saturday. Fill us in on how you and the team are feeling heading into a couple more important games in the division.
Yeah, it seems like everybody in the division's playing well lately. I mean, this time of year, all these wins add up, and they mean a lot come playoff time. But Rockford's a team we haven't been able to play much this season yet, so we're just preparing for them. They're a fast, hard team, and I think it'll be another night where we'll have to play our best, and then. I think just moving forward, all these games matter just that much more.
Well, Jeff, I can tell you that fans of the Moose and the Jets had a great laugh. It was great to see a nice big win on a really fun day down at the rink last week, and continued success to you and the squad. We really enjoyed having you on. Let's make a day. You guys clinch that playoff spot. We'll start getting the hype up for some nice crowds at the playoffs, and we'd love to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk sometime.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks so much. There's Jeff Malott, Manitoba Moose leading goal scorer right now, and the guy that was everywhere Sunday night after his walk-off shootout winner against the Chicago Wolves for the Manitoba Moose. Really enjoyed that conversation. That was great stuff with Jeff, and big thanks to our guy Dan Fink for helping us set that up. Don't forget Moose tomorrow night against Rockford, and then back at it on Saturday afternoon with a 2 p.m. start. That was great. Hey, big thanks to our friends Nick and Nikki in the Nick and Nikki DQ group. They've been with us from day one, and maybe one of our favorite sponsors of our listeners and viewers to support, because that means you're getting some of the good stuff. The amazing new burgers are featured right now at DQ. But when you think of DQ, it's synonymous with the Blizzard, and the Red Velvet Cheesecake Blizzard is the hit right now at your local Nick and Nikki DQ. If you haven't tried one, why don't you do it today? Pop down to any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs, DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, both with drive-thrus, the DQ at Polo Park, and of course, DQ St. Anne's. DQ St. Anne's, by the way, available for delivery for folks in St. Vital on Skip the Dishes and on Uber Eats. And you can follow them on Instagram and hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba if you would like to get a custom order in for a DQ ice cream cake that they'll have ready for you to pick up at any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQ locations. Midweek, but you know what Friday means? It's the weekend. And you know what goes great with the weekend? Maybe even the early weekend. Thursday, maybe Wednesday, is the Great Taste of Canadian Club, Canada's favorite since 1848, featuring Canadian Club Original, Canadian Club 100% Rye, the Canadian Club 12-year Reserve, and so much more. You can pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts, and of course, Canadian Club, a big sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk and helping us. I guess we're getting the new hoodies coming in very shortly. We'll have another one to give away with our world famous Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race on Friday afternoon. So make sure you're with us live on YouTube in the last half hour of the program to be eligible to win. You also have to be subscribed. So hit that red subscribe button if you're with us on YouTube and make sure you subscribe and like the episode while you're at it. We will get to Coolbet odds in just a moment and recap a big win last night for many Lock Shop and Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. But let's get Michael Remis back in here. Remo, been a great show. Tons of folks in here today enjoying the conversations. Jeff Hamilton was awesome. And got to tell you, really impressed with Jeff Malott. He's been a lot of fun to watch in his 2 years here, starting off his pro career with the Manitoba Moose. Scored more goals than anybody in a Moose uniform this year and scored maybe the most memorable goal, certainly with the most memorable celebration on Sunday. That was a great visit from Jeff for the first time on WST.
Yeah, only guest today named Jeff Hamilton, Jeff Malott. Sometimes it just works out.
That's why Jamie Thomas got bumped. We realized that it was Jeff Day. No Jamies. He was out.
Yeah, it's great. So great. We're talking with Jeff, hearing his story, going to Alberta, then going to Cornell, then the Moose. Amazing where hockey takes you sometimes. I have, for people on the podcast on YouTube, we have their Twitter names, and his Twitter name is Fedge under FFEJ _ Malott, and I had no idea what that was. Go to I believe was.
How long did it take you to figure out that that's Jeff backwards?
Oh, I had no idea until someone mentioned in chat they had just figured it out. I had no idea. I was like, Fedge, what is that, like fantasy football? EJ? What is that? I had no idea, man. I just typed it in. I kept having to I couldn't remember that it was FFEJ. I had to keep pulling up my description over and over again where I wrote it the first time because I couldn't remember it. So
you're unbelievable.
What, you knew right away that it was Jeff backwards?
Yeah, it didn't take. Yes, I did. It doesn't really.
Was it that obvious?
Need to speak to it that much more.
Was it that obvious? I had no idea.
Hey, quickly, let's get to the Coolbet lines. And I see Bardot in here. I won my first ever sports bet last night. Huss, you're a bad influence. Laine got his 20th goal. A beauty. Okay, let's celebrate Patrick Laine for a minute. I know he's got a lot of fans here in Winnipeg that loved him playing for the Winnipeg Jets and are hoping nothing but good things for him in Columbus with the Blue Jackets, especially those of us that jumped on the worst line Coolbet will give out all year, the season over-under on Laine goals at 19.5. Now, injuries always, can impact those over bets. But Remo, as I said, going into the season, Patrick Laine scores 20 goals in his sleep. This is as close to quote unquote free money as we'll get. And man, he's just been hot lately. And I'll tell you what, he got to 20 and won all the tickets for everyone at the Lock Shop and Winnipeg Sports Talk with an absolute beauty last night.
This guy is scoring highlight reel goal after highlight reel goal. He had a rough, him and Dubois both had rough years last year. He bounced back and, he was injured and, had to deal with the death of his father. But there he is, 35 games, 20 goals, 18 assists. I thought this guy wasn't a passer, 38 points. So he's over a point per game player. And again, he toe drags a guy, snipes it in the back of the net. No one scores from distance on, clean looks from a goalie like this guy. His shot is incredible. And I think he will always have a lot of fans here. And we did have a lot of jersey talk in chat. There's no problem with wearing a Laine Jets jersey still, Huss. The guy was a legend here for a couple seasons, and he's making highlights seemingly every night here. He had a red-hot February, 15 points in 10 games, 9 goals, 6 assists. So for January as well, he had 10 of 14, so he really heated up there.
Well, and you know what? You mentioned the passing of his father, which is just so tragic. I got a couple friends that are pretty close to the Laine family from their time in Winnipeg, and it was an absolute shock to everyone. Of course, Patrick went back to Finland and came back and is playing in an incredibly inspired, passionate game right now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And that was it was sad, so sad for a young man to lose his father at such a young age. But he's putting a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces right now, and certainly dealing with it in about as best ways you can possible. And that's making Dad proud upstairs right now, and making a lot of fans that are backing him happy. So shout out to Patrick Laine. And of course, it was the lock of the century of the week yesterday on Columbus to win that game. Would have been nice to get the puck line as well. That late Zaka goal made it just 4-3, but Columbus did come through. So that was nice. Although, as I did cop to it earlier today, Remis, I'm not sure whether it was on the show or talking to you beforehand. And I did also take the under in the Jets-Habs game last night, which was maybe the most dubious bet I'll make all year. It was 4-0 that early, and then Montreal got right back into it. And the bet, well, like if you had the over in that game, you'd won it before they even got to the dressing room. So maybe fade my over-under picks. I'm not sure, but nice for Columbus to get through. It was a nice night for those of us going head-to-head with Coolbet. And we've got, 4 games tonight in the National Hockey League to get to over at coolbet.com. Straight up pick 'em between the Blues and the Rangers. -109 on both sides. Probably take a look and watch that game tonight, of course, because the Rangers are coming to town on Sunday to take on the Winnipeg Jets for their lone visit of the season here to Canada Life Center. The Sabres and Maple Leafs are going at it. No surprise, Toronto is a massive favorite, -417. And then this is a huge game, and I don't even know, who you're pulling for in this game. I guess LA, but the Kings are in Dallas to take on the Stars. Stars will then travel to Winnipeg to take on the Winnipeg Jets on Friday afternoon. Stars are a -141 favorite. The Kings are paying +120 after getting rocked at home in their last game out against the Boston Bruins. And then the final game, and the Seattle Kraken could do a lot of people a lot of favors. Nashville's been struggling lately. They're a -185 favorite on the road. Seattle +156. So Jet fans definitely pulling for Seattle on the out-of-town scoreboard today. I guess just by proxy, you're always cheering against a team like the Blues, but they're pretty safe. But this Kings-Stars game, Remis, when we look at the standings right now, let's just get it up into the conference side. The Kings right now, 65 points, sitting pretty. Dallas at 61. It's so jumped up. I guess first and foremost, just please, no 3-point game.
Yeah, 3-point games are the worst. So hopefully a clean 2. I don't know who we're cheering for, I guess. I don't know who are we cheering for if we want the Jets to make the playoffs here. Is it Dallas or is it LA? Because Dallas is in your division, but they have less points than LA.
Here's the thing, though. If you don't catch Dallas, you're done. Because that still is only 6th in the division. Catching Dallas gets you to 5th in the Central, and you still then need to pass the other teams. But if Dallas is ahead of you, it doesn't matter. And I guess the thing with the Kings, they played a few extra games. They're 54. They're 11 games above 500 right now with 65. Mm-hmm. They're actually ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights, who did finally get a win last night. But it is crazy. The Wild, with that loss last night to Calgary, are sitting at 65, although they've only played 51 games. The Kings are 65 and 54. The Predators are 64 and 53. The Knights are 64 and 54. Again, you're looking at that neighborhood of about 10 games, 11 games above 500. I think it's probably going to take at least 13 or 14 above 500 to get into that spot. And the Edmonton Oilers playing well. They won last night, shutting out Philly. So they're at 63 points. So, the Winnipeg Jets are still sitting, 6 points back of the final spot. I guess it does come down to it. You just don't want the 3-point games. Maybe we go for the Kings tonight and just get that loss on Dallas and maybe get a little bit closer to Dallas, hopefully, if they can get a clean win on Friday night here at home.
I think so. Dallas has got 2 games in hand. We're playing them Friday. It would be pretty big if Dallas lost the next 2. So, yes, I'll cheer for the King.
Of course, you can get in on the action over at coolbet.com if you're like Bardo or had never played before and want to maybe try your luck. Your first deposit at coolbet.com, use the promo code WST. they'll give you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit over there. You can also get in if you're like a golf guy like me. Looking forward to the Arnold Palmer Invitational. John Rahm is the favorite for the event at 9-1. Check out yesterday's Lock Shop. Dusty and I went through our selections and who we're on for the Arnold Palmer. And you can get over to Coolbet, hit the winner, top 5, top 10, top 20s. And we'll have to see if my buddy P. Greggy's got a make the cut parlay. He's had a few beauties lately. But again, all that there. And yeah, search the Lock Shop on your favorite podcast feed or just check out our Twitter feeds, myself and Dustin Nielsen's, for the latest Lock Shop. And we'll have another episode going into the weekend coming up on Friday. Slower night tonight in the National Hockey League, Reem, but kind of take tonight off. Maybe hit the Moose game tomorrow night and then getting ready for that monster game with the Dallas Stars, the final head-to-head meeting of the season. The Jets got to overtime twice in Dallas, but weren't able to win. Still lost 2 points head-to-head. You're going to need to make that up with a clean win on Friday night, and that really will be the focus for the next couple days.
Yeah, I agree. And if you do want to have some entertainment as well in Winnipeg tonight, there is a Winnipeg Ice game.
Ice are back.
Lethbridge. Shout out to Dan and Corey, who entered the draw on our website, and they each won a 4-pack of tickets. And now we'll be giving away ice tickets for, I guess, the rest of the season. But I've updated the contest on our website, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Or go to winnipegsportstalk.com and hit the contest tab at the top. And we got a bunch of 4-packs of tickets for next Tuesday's game when they return home against the Calgary Hitmen. So sign up with your email. You'll automatically get entered, and you can do some additional stuff like sharing the contest with a friend or joining our newsletter. So there you go. You can get in on those tickets as well, and I'll probably end it Sunday or Monday. So a lot of time here to get in on that.
Exactly. Yeah. WinnipegSportsTalk.com. Click on contest, get entered. If you hit our Instagram or get the newsletter, you can get some additional entries. I'll tell you what, Jeff Malott was so good. I was just checking to see if we do have tickets, and we do have seats for the game against the Moose and against the Rockford Ice Hogs on Saturday afternoon, and that's the autism awareness game. Remo, we've got a second. Can we call a quick audible and pull out the wheel of winners and maybe fire this out? We got a bunch of people in here. We got a couple minutes before the end of the program. I figure this would be a good way to get out. And of course, having Jeff on the program, I know a lot of people looking forward to the Moose game. You can pick up tickets for that game tomorrow night if you want to go Thursday. But I do have a 4-pack of seats. Some great seats for Saturday afternoon's game if we want to go.
Okay, by we, you're referring to the chat, or did you just invite me?
No, I think we should maybe open it up. I mean, a contest just between you and me would be a little bit anticlimactic at this point.
I was kind of half paying attention because I'm getting this contest ready, but I heard if we want to go, and I was like, oh, are you inviting me?
Yeah, no. Well, if you do want to go, we can go as well. In fact, you know what? That's what we'll do. We'll give away a pair right now. We'll give away a pair for the game. And then I think we'll probably have another pair. Maybe we'll do that on Friday on the show. But with Jeff Malott here, we got to do a Moose giveaway. So what's it going to be? I know it's not open in the chat. If you're with us and you haven't been before, you do have to be subscribed to enter. So just make sure you hit that red subscribe button. If you haven't already, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up as well, the liking of the episode. And heck, if you're watching this afterwards, we always love seeing your comments. Which you can do just below there. Throw in what you've thought of Jeff and Fedge, who joined us earlier today, as well as your thoughts on the Jets' win over the Montreal Canadiens. All right, we're going to start this Bruce up. So again, this is for a pair of tickets to the game on Saturday afternoon. Moose and the Rockford Ice Hogs. What are we doing? We're doing tickets or what?
Yeah, it should have just started. ! Tickets, throw it in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you like the video. And ! Tickets. You will be in the draw. And if you want ice tickets to next Tuesday's game, again, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. So we got a lot of tickets here.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be doing the ice tickets through the website. So if you're listening on the podcast, you're definitely in on that. But we figured maybe we'll do the other pair at some point for the weekend Moose games. through the website as well. But for right now, if you're with us and you are able to go to the Moose game on Saturday afternoon, it's a 2:00 start. Put in !tickets. It is officially open right now. We'll give you a couple minutes to get those in, and then we'll grab all of the names and be sure to stick around, because if you do win, you're going to need to send us an email so we know where to email you the tickets. I'll say this, Reem. I went to the Moose game, as I mentioned, on Saturday. I wanted to get back on Sunday for the Cole Perfetti bobblehead game, but just had some stuff going on, of course, with the Jets playing at 3 p.m. in a do-or-die game against Arizona. Spent the time watching the Winnipeg Jets, but it's kind of nice now with the schedule, with the Jets at home on Friday and Sunday and the Moose on Thursday and Saturday. We're going to have opportunities to see both teams over the course of the next 4 days. And then the Winnipeg Ice come back, start Tuesday, and have a very busy schedule over the course of the next few weeks. I haven't had a lot of home games over the last couple months for many reasons.
Yeah, the whole Ice schedule got messed up. I do want to give a shout out. I might have mentioned this yesterday. No more afternoon games for the Jets. It's amazing. No more weekend afternoon games. I can watch every evening. So that is spectacular.
You got it. I just got a tweet from my text from my buddy David Lowe. Dave, if you're watching, thinking about you, pal. Hope you're getting better. He was quite fired up about the Laine over. Thought maybe it wouldn't happen when he got injured earlier this season. Not so much. Laine's in for 20. Everyone's catching the tickets. All right. Last call right now. We'll give you a 10-9. It's !tickets. If you can go to the game Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. downtown, Moose and Rockford Ice Hogs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, Remo, let's wrap this up. Let's see who wants to go to the Moose game, and we will spin the Winnipeg Sports Talk Wheel of Winners for a pair of tickets for the game. And oh man, that was awesome to get Jeff Malott on. Really well-spoken young man, and maybe not surprising. He did 4 years at Cornell. But man, what a walk-off he had on Sunday afternoon. Hopefully you can get maybe another viral moment from the game coming up on Sunday. How's the wheel looking right now, Reem?
I'm getting it set up. I gotta paste the names out of this program that gathers them all, and we'll toss it into the thing. So sorry, here I am.
Hey, while you get that up, shout out Raptors' big win yesterday against the Brooklyn Nets. They continue to hang in there in the playoff race in the Eastern Conference. Another loss for the Lakers right now. Like, I'll be honest, I haven't paid as much attention to the NBA so far this year. I really don't. It's seemingly when football ends, I'll start paying closer attention. But so often you sort of know who the top teams are, what's going on, and you sort of focus in closer to the playoffs. It is just crazy right now. The Los Angeles Lakers are 27-34.
Yeah,
they're
suck.
in 9th spot right now. And remember how LeBron hated the play-in last year? Thought it was a waste of time and was unfair? It's probably liking it right now, because if they didn't have the play-in right now, they wouldn't even be in a position to make the playoffs. And they're 4.5 games out of 8th spot right now, where the Clippers are. They're absolutely crazy. And they've had some embarrassing losses lately. Not going well for LeBron and the gang down in Hollywood.
No, I know Anthony Davis has been injured on and off, and he's on the injured list again because I have him in fantasy. But Russell Westbrook, they acquired him. He's not good now, so
can't shoot anymore.
Disaster season for the Lakers, and I see waiters writing about MLB should be on banned words. Yeah, we're not talking about it.
Yeah, no,
they cancel games. That's all they're gonna mention. They're gonna get.
If you just want to see Remis lose his mind, get angry, me get pissed off as well, and go on a rant, then we'll bring up Major League Baseball. But they can screw themselves. Okay. Now I'm just getting pissed off.
Stop. We posted a video on our Instagram today. We do like a reel a day of us talking about it. That's all you're gonna get from us. It's on our TikTok too. Follow us on TikTok. And actually, Andrew Collier, the GM of the Gold Eyes, he commented, "Does this mean the Gold Eyes are banned too?" Asking for me.
Definitely not.
Yes.
100% not. Gold Eyes are in. And you know what? Baseball is a great sport. Major League Baseball can screw themselves if they're going to miss part of this season. But independent baseball and the Goldeyes is something that I think everyone cannot wait to get going again here in Winnipeg after a couple really miserable lost seasons. I think, fingers crossed, we'll have open stadiums, no capacity limits, no masks. I mean, just sitting outside, enjoying a game, a hot dog, a beer, the way it's supposed to be. And obviously Goldeyes with new unis as well coming up this year. Hey, just one more quick thing on the NBA before we do it. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are not an embarrassment anymore. 34-29. They won last night. They're actually in 7th spot right now in the West. And for one of the worst franchises in NBA history, they've got a 6-game lead on the LA Lakers right now. And, maybe it's finally coming around for those long-suffering fans in the Twin Cities of the T-Wolves.
Did you hear that A-Rod was doing some work with them? I saw him hanging around Minnesota trying to turn around the T-Wolves. So
yeah, I think doesn't he have a piece of the team?
I
think that's why. I think he's involved in somewhat of the ownership group. Anyways, let's get to it. We got a pair of Moose tickets. Let's fire up the wheel of winners, and we'll send out, if you do win this, whatever, just let us know you're here in the chat once it's done. But you can send us an email to winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, and we'll make sure we get the tickets to you. All right, Remo, let's take it away.
All right, we got the wheel. Bunch of people in here interested. 2 tickets. We'll give them away. I'm going to spin it, okay? Are you ready for this one?
Let's make it happen. Moose tickets, Saturday afternoon, Autism Awareness Day, 2 p.m., Rockford, Ice Hogs. Let's go. Always enjoy the wheel.
We have... Is that Corey H? I believe Corey H.
That is Corey H. Corey Haim, former teen star back in the day, licensed to drive, Goonies. I'm not sure whether it's Corey Haim, but Corey H. Congratulations. Nicely done. So Corey, do us a favor. Send us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. I'll send you those tickets, and maybe we'll see you Saturday afternoon to see the Moose take on the Rockford Ice Hogs. Very fun show today. Oh, I did mention we were hoping to have Dale Weiss on today, and it would have been a great day considering the Jets and the Habs played. I have been texting with Dale. He has some interesting thoughts on what happened last night. Dale is going to join us on Friday's program. We'll have Kenny join us as well, and Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. That'll be the one time we probably break away from the baseball ban or the Major League Baseball ban to get Hacksaw's take on all of it. And man, tomorrow's going to be a great show, Reem. Murata Tesh will join us, hoping to maybe get Travis Yost on, and Andrew Harris. It's hard for me to even say this, former Bomber Andrew Harris, but Bomber legend Andrew Harris, now with the Toronto Argonauts, is going to join us for the first time since signing his contract with the Argos, and that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what he's up to. Hear about signing with the Argos. We did see him front row, glass seats at a Leafs game. Is he going to be Leafs fan?
Yeah, with
now?
Dinwizzle.
What's that all about? So I'm curious about that one. So you're gonna have to ask him.
Yeah. So anyways, that's going to be great to catch up with Andrew Harris. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll also have Murata Tesh on. We'll have more on the National Hockey League, as well as the latest from Jets practice. Maybe some updates. We'll get a little more information on Nikolai Ehlers, see how things are progressing from him, and then some coach news and notes as well on tomorrow's show. Man, this has been a great show. Thanks to everyone who joined us today live on YouTube. Thanks to everyone who's listening to the podcast. And, of course, the entire gang in the chat. Some great hilarity today on the program. We can't do it without our sponsors. Thank you to them. F Apparel, Vita Health, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and Coolbet Canada. By the way, Rob Somerville, I believe earlier, was asking about the Brier. And yes, it does start on Friday, and was asking if we can maybe talk about some of the teams that they're going to be playing. Let me try and get a guest for the Brier in the next couple days. And definitely, depending on how the schedule looks, we'll hook up with the Team McEwen boys, try and get Reed on. And we're planning on having Colton Lott to talk about the event. And now he's playing for Manitoba as a fill-in for Colin Hodgson. So we will do a last-minute Briar primer tomorrow. And just as a heads up, after tomorrow's show, I'll be jumping on the Coolbet Canada podcast with Chris Abbott and Pat Gregoire and the guys, and we'll do sort of a last call Briar conversation before it gets going. But you can go to Coolbet. All the odds are up for the Briar. And as I said, I like Brad Jacobs, plus 330. Pretty good number right now. Kind of fading Brad Gushu, who is the favorite after the emotional run in Beijing for it. But anyways, all that's tomorrow and Friday as we continue the week. And then Friday night, huge game, Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars. Thank you to Jeff Hamilton for joining us. Thanks to Mr. Walk-Off Lights Out himself, Jeff Malott from the Manitoba Moose, and everyone who joined us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock right here on YouTube and a little later on in the afternoon for you podcast listeners. Have a great one, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.